Good morning. We are here on June 21st, 2018. It is 10 a.m. I'd like to go ahead and call this commission meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is to review and approve the minutes from March 22nd from our regular meeting. Do we have any changes to those minutes? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
To approve the minutes.
All right, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, now we need to approve the minutes from the April 12th, 2018 special call telephonic meeting. Any changes to those minutes? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, all right, moving on then to agenda item number 3 then. We have preliminary hearings. So the agenda changed just slightly first thing this morning because we had some matters continue and then move to some consent orders. So items A, B, and C have moved. So we then start with item D, which is in the 2016-0039 in the matter of Catherine Bernard. Mr. Lane, that is your matter.
Yes, ma'am, it is. And Miss Bernard is here.
Okay, fantastic. Ms. Bernard, if you'll go ahead and come up. Thank you. Let me, let's get a table, thanks. So that. Okay, whenever you're ready, Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, you have before you case number 2016-0039 in the matter of Miss Catherine Bernard. This case came before the Commission pursuant to a third-party complaint filed on May 9th, 2016 from Mr. William Kramer. Ms. Bernard, during this period of time, was a candidate in the 2016 general election for the State House Representative District 80C. And Mr. Kramer made numerous, I'd argue, kind of spurious allegations that Ms. Bernard's campaign expenditures were not ordinary and reasonable expenses. He alleged that the highlights were that he alleged that her rent was not appropriate, that it was too much rent, and that it was being paid to someone that was going to basically funnel the money back to her. He made additional allegations relating to like travel and some other expenses. Long story short, the Commission audited all of Ms. Bernard's accounts. We audited her campaign account, and there was no malfeasance found in any of her campaign expenditures. They were all ordinary and necessary expenditures as defined by the Campaign Finance Act. What we did find, though, however, was that 2 of Ms. Bernard's campaign contribution disclosure reports were filed late, that being September 30th, 2016 and October 25th, 2016 CCDR. We notified Ms. Bernard by subsequent notice of additional allegations that those reports were filed late. And so the only outstanding charges against Ms. Bernard are 2 violations of OCGA 21-5-34C2A, which is the election year filing schedule for CCDRs. Her personal financial disclosure statement was complete, it was filed on time. So that's the only thing we have for consideration today.
Okay, all right. Ms. Bernard.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be able to finally talk about this complaint over 2 years after it was filed. I recognize you all have been busy, but it is a relief. One of the things that I did bring and showed to Mr. Lane, I have a copy that, can I give this to the commissioners?
Absolutely.
This ethics complaint was a significant factor in the House District 80 race. It was filed by an associate of one of my opponents in the race, and I believed it was baseless at the time, and as an audit has confirmed, it was baseless. I put tremendous amounts of my own money into this race. I certainly would not have done anything inappropriate with money that was being entrusted to me by my donors. So unfortunately, however, simply the filing of this ethics complaint triggered significant consequences. There were articles in the AJC, and as I passed out to you, Friends of Megan Hansen, my opponent's campaign committee, did in fact circulate a flyer, a mailer to everyone in the district saying Catherine Bernard is under investigation for ethics violations. So this is the kind of thing that was, I don't know that we have the evidence to say that it was deliberately coordinated by an opponent's campaign, but certainly the fact that Will Kramer is not someone who lives in the district. He had run for office himself. He worked with Ms. Hansen on Georgia Young Republicans matters. This was something that was targeted at me deliberately, and the fact that it was spurious, the fact that there was no basis for it whatsoever, means I am asking the commission to find it to be a frivolous complaint. I recognize that y'all usually don't do that when other violations are found, but in this case, these other violations were after I was no longer a candidate. Obviously, the reporting requirements are still present, but we are talking about, September and October, things being filed 2 days after the grace period. It's my fault. There's no question about that, but I would ask that in this case, I did not retain an attorney. I have faith in, myself and my treasurer for the campaign, so I don't have any attorney's fees, but I would ask the commission to, I think just to ask Mr. Kramer to pay the late fees for me. That would be fair, because this race was decided by about 76 votes. This mailer was cited to me by numerous people in my district. I had my supporters coming up to me asking if I could sue because they were so concerned about the allegations being made. I believe it was a frivolous complaint. I believe it meets the standard of a frivolous complaint, and the audit results do demonstrate that.
Okay, thank you for that. I don't know why, can you guys hear me over there? Is the mic on?
No.
It's not, it's not.
Hold on. Okay, now it's on. Okay. Just want to make sure that the audio gets recorded. Okay. All right, any questions for either Mr. Lane or Ms. Bernard?
Madam Chair, I have one from Mr. Lane.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lane, what is your position, if you have one,
Yes, sir.
relative to what we have authority to do as a commission?
As to the disposition of the case or attorney's fees or both?
Well, first of all, is there a precedent, or can we find that the main complaint of improper expenditures was filed without basis?
Yes, sir. I think there is sufficient precedent under cases we have decided that you can find that the underlying complaint was filed without basis because there was no supporting documents to go with the allegation.
Were there none?
No, sir.
Okay.
Not for the allegations that were made, for example, like rent and what have you.
Tell me then, is there any precedent for us going further and calling it frivolous? Or is it by nature and definition, when there's no basis, is it frivolous? Hey, Stephen, do you have?
Yes, Stefan's actually trying to pipe in.
Yeah, I'm gonna, there's some sort of feedback over here.
Try the other mic.
Okay. In any regards, let me say this, Mr. Kathy. I'm just speak loudly. First of all, there is specific and explicit statutory authority which gives the commission the authority to issue attorney's fees in cases where there is no reasonable basis or no reasonable grounds for a complaint that is filed against an official. And quite frankly, my understanding, I can't speak for the General Assembly, but I think it was clear that when this happened, that happened because there was a fear that abusive complaints would be filed to try to damage people in campaigns without any sort of colorable basis. So there is statutory authority. There is also precedent because in a case involving a complaint filed by George Anderson, and a response that was handled by an attorney, Randy Evans. Mr. Evans sought attorney's fees against Mr. Anderson for a frivolous complaint. And in fact, I believe that he initially received indication that was going to be granted and settled with Mr. Anderson. And Mr. Anderson actually, as part of that settlement, withdrew from filing complaints with our office for a number of years. So there is a precedent on that, on both sides. And of course, well, that won't resolve the late fee issues regarding Ms. Bernard, you know, and I don't know that
we
we
can
have.
easily resolve the late fee issue.
Right, of course.
Because I assume, Mr. Lane, am I correct in my assumption that had this more serious complaint been filed, the issue of 2 days late filing would have been handled administratively without.
A notice of late fees would have been sent to
Yeah.
Ms. Bernard. She would have had the opportunity to pay them.
Yeah.
One issue that I see that pops up, Commissioner Kathy, is that no official response has been filed by Ms. Bernard, and no request for attorney's fees have been made until this morning.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, there's a due process issue as to
Well,
the complaint.
there seems to be one with him in the notice and hearing. However, were any attorney's fees expended?
That
That's the
she,
next question.
yeah, and you said you had not hired counsel, correct?
No, I have not hired counsel. It's, I've spent my own time on this.
Yeah, well, your own time is valuable, but probably doesn't fit in the category of attorney's fees that can be awarded.
Right, that's, in fact, Stephen, which statute are you referring to? So I want to look at the language of the statute.
I believe, I'm sorry, trusting my memory here, but I believe it's OCGA 21-5-6 B23.
Okay.
We have a copy of the statute.
And Ms. Bernard, you understand, we have a charge to make sure that campaign laws adhere to, and an equal charge to make sure they're not abused for the purpose of gaining political advantage.
Yes.
And that's what we're trying to deal with here. And you make no bones about it that you believe this was a frivolous charge to publicize and take advantage of this in a political matter, right?
I do, that is what I believe. I will note, I don't believe Mr. Kramer is present today, which I believe is required for an individual who has filed a complaint. And I would also note that in my previous election in 2015, Mr. Kramer was part of the folks who were attacking me publicly after my office got broken into. So this was sort of a pattern of harassment from this individual, unfortunately.
And who won the race?
Megan Hansen won the Republican primary and was victorious over Taylor Bennett, who was the incumbent in House District 80.
And Kramer had nothing to do with her campaign.
He walked for her, he was a volunteer for her. I don't know if he had any official capacity. I do know they were associated.
You know, no other candidate he supported.
No, he was not supporting any other candidate.
So I'm looking at the language of 21-5-6B,
Your memory never fails.
23, and 24, actually. So 23 says to award attorney's fees to the party complained against if the commission deems the complaint to be frivolous legally or factually, or if the complaining party fails without good cause to appear at the preliminary hearing on the complaint, and to issue a warning letter to persons who have not filed any statement or report required by this chapter. So,
Well, it appears that we could do no sanctions against the complainant.
Right.
She's not had any notice.
If you wanted to do sanctions for the attorney's fees, if you found grounds for the attorney's fees, you could continue the case and we would notice it for the next hearing, providing notice to the complainant.
Well, is it jurisdictional? Can we award attorney's fees when there are no attorney's fees.
Well, that's right,
That's-
that's the
that's the
issue.
So we may be able to handle it today if we can find today that the complaint was filed without cause and was frivolous. And an investigation revealed some technical late filings that would have been handled with a notice of late filing if these notices were made. And I make that motion.
Okay, all right, I'll second that
What's the
motion.
motion? Can you repeat the motion?
No way in the world. But my motion is that we find that the initial complaint for improper expenditures was filed without basis and was frivolous. And had it not been filed, other technical violations, which we do find were present, would have been handled a different way with a late notice and ability to cure.
And I seconded that. So, all right, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right, motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving on then to,
I think.
okay. All right, moving on then to item E, which is 2017-0213 in the matter of Gloria Thompson. Is Ms. Thompson here?
Don't believe so.
Okay. All right, Mr. Lane.
Commissioners, you have before you the case in the matter of Gloria Thompson, 2017-0213 PC. Ms. Thompson is the current county commissioner for McDuffie County. She was elected in 2016, and as I said, is currently the incumbent. This case came before the commission pursuant to a sua sponte complaint. Basically, she got caught up in one of our audits, our random audits. We noticed that she had outstanding late fees. The only charge that is pending against Ms. Thompson is that she late filed a January 31st, 2017 campaign contribution disclosure report. That was during her non-election year. So that would be a violation of 21-534 subsection C1. The report has been filed. The late fee has not. We have sent numerous notices of late fees to Ms. Thompson. They have been received. They've been properly served. No further follow-up was forthcoming from Ms. Thompson. That's what resulted in us beginning the suit. She was properly served with the suit. We've attempted to reach out to her numerous times to settle the case and get her to pay the late fees. And unfortunately, she's either been non-communicative or she's been non-communicative, to put it that way. With that, Commissioners, I'd ask that the Commission find probable cause to proceed forward.
Okay. All right, any questions for Mr. Lane?
I mean, it looks like she was 6 months late.
She was.
Okay. And then all the ones prior to that were timely.
They were.
Is there any instinct on why?
The first instinct was that maybe she was confused as to her ability to use the affidavit not to exceed $2,500, which would relieve her of periodic reporting. But it's a race in which she raised, if memory serves me correctly, well over $10,000, so she wouldn't qualify. So she'd have a normal reporting schedule for the remaining part of her term. Nothing was filed with the local election superintendent showing that she was operating under that assumption. It just wasn't filed. The weird thing is that she filed her June report in 2017. And I honestly don't know when she filed in January, so she's aware. And she's doing it correctly at other times.
But she's made no explanation for Yes, sure. 19.
Okay, then. Any other questions? Okay, then I move that we find that in the matter of Gloria Thompson, 2017-0213 PC, that there are reasonable grounds to believe that there was a violation of the Campaign Finance Act.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, moving on then to letter F, 2017-0211 PC in the matter of Charles K. Shaheen III. Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, this is another case in which a candidate was caught up in one of our late fee audits. Mr. Shaheen ran for City Council Post 1 and also as for mayor of Warner Robins. He, at the time the suit began, he was the incumbent for City Council Post 1 in Warner Robins, but he was also a candidate for mayor. He was, unfortunately for him, unsuccessful in his mayoral bid, and he also resigned from City Council. What our audit revealed is that Mr. Shaheen had late filed his December 3rd, 2013 CCDR. It was a special election year for his 2013 election to City Council. So that's why you're seeing December 3rd. All reports in the special election are due 15 days before the special election. And then they have a December 31st report. He filed a December 31st report. He just didn't do the 15 days before election, which would have been his only report. And then he had a June 30th, 2017 CCDR, which was filed late. It was due on June 30th, 2017. He filed it July 13th of 2017. We provided multiple notices of late fee to him. They were properly served. No response was forthcoming. We began the suit just like we did on the last case. Still no responses were forthcoming. We would submit to the commission that there are reasonable grounds to believe a violation of the Campaign Finance Act occurred.
Okay, any questions? Okay, hearing none, I move that we find that in the matter of Charles K. Shaheen III, 2017-0211 PC, that there are reasonable grounds to believe that a violation of the Campaign Finance Act has occurred. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on now to letter G, 2017-0221 PC in the matter of Gregory Cecil Clifton. Is Mr. Clifton here?
I don't believe so, ma'am.
Okay, all right, Mr. Lane.
Commissioners, before you is the case of Gregory Cecil Clifton, 2017-0221 PC. This is also another one of our late fee enforcement actions. Mr. Clifton qualified to run for the mayorship of Fayetteville, Georgia in 2015, and then subsequently for county commissioner. I believe at this point in time, they're doing at-large county commission races in 2016. He was unsuccessful in both races. An audit of his various campaign accounts showed that for his county commission race, he had a number of reports that were just simply not filed. He had the June 30th, 2016, September 30th, October 25th, 2016 CCDRs, as well as his non-election year reports for January 31st and June 30th, 2017. Just by way of caution, he may not owe the 2017 reports, but considering we have no idea how he disposed of his campaign contributions, because he had campaign cash on hand after he lost his primary election, we don't know how they were disposed, so we operated under the assumption that he would have supplemental reporting.
Did you,
Yes, sir.
has he been requested to provide what he did with those campaign funds, or?
I can tell you.
He has other requirements other than 17, is what you say, correct?
No, sir, I'm saying he may not have owned 17. For example, if in December he had reported no cash on hand, then he would have no 17 reporting requirements. But if memory serves me correctly, he did file a December report showing cash on hand, so he would have supplemental reporting requirements in the following year to let us know how that campaign cash was disposed of.
But what if he, it seems like a pretty minor violation if he had disposed of it and didn't have any report.
With the exception of the 16s.
Yeah, that's why I asked. He had other ones besides.
He had other, yes, sir, he had other reports that he had to file, no exception. And I do not believe we asked him for his campaign records simply because he was being non-responsive.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I'll move then that we find that there are reasonable grounds to believe that a violation of the Campaign Finance Act has occurred in the matter of Gregory Cecil Clifton, 2017-0221 PC. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, now we are moving to letter K because a number of H, I, and J have moved on the agenda down to orders. So, okay, let's see, let me get to where I'm supposed to be. Okay, this is 2018-0019 PC in the matter of, is it Eshe Collins?
That's how I pronounce it.
Okay, all right, is Mr. or Mrs. Collins here?
I do not believe so.
Okay, all right, Mr. Lane.
Commissioners, before you is case number 2018-0019 PC against Ms. Esha Collins. She is currently the Atlanta Board of Education District 6 member. I believe she also serves as the vice chair of the Atlanta Board of Education. This is another one of our late fee enforcement actions. During Ms. Collins' 2017 re-election to the Atlanta Board of Education, she late filed her September 30th, 2017 CCDR. She filed it on October 24th, 2017. We provided numerous notices of late fees to her. She was non-responsive. Since she was non-responsive, after a period of 90 days, we commenced the suit. She was served properly with the suit and is still non-responsive. We have not heard from her despite our attempts to reach out. The late fee remains unpaid. We respectfully submit that there are reasonable grounds to believe that a violation of the Campaign Finance Act occurred.
Robert, how
Yes, sir.
much is this late fee?
$125, sir.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. I'll move then that reasonable grounds exist to find that, do you need, okay, that in the matter of Esha Collins, 2018-0019 PC, that reasonable grounds of a violation of the Campaign Finance Act have occurred. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, yes, Mr. Ritter.
It passed. I just wanted to note in response to Mr. Cathy's comment, it is a very small amount. The fact of the matter is, administratively, we handle these. The state certainly loses money on our efforts to do this, but we don't have any authority just to say, well, yeah, you missed it. So,
We understand.
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, now it looks like items L and M have moved, and so now we're on to item N. That's 2017-0180 PC in the matter of Sean Bullock. Ms. Wetzel, is Mr. or Mrs. Bullock here?
He is not.
Okay,
Again, this is another late fee collections case where we had sent Mr. Bullock a notice of late fees by certified mail. He was given several months to respond and pay the late fee, but he did not. He participated in a special election for the 2017 South Fulton City Council. He had a CCDR due on March 6, 2017. He did not file that, therefore a late fee was assessed, and a notice was sent. He did not respond, did not pay. I haven't heard from him. Therefore, I'm asking that you find that there are reasonable grounds to believe that he violated the act by failing to file a campaign contribution disclosure report and not paying the late fee.
okay, any questions? All right. Hearing none then, I move that we find reasonable grounds exist to find a violation of the Campaign Finance Act has occurred in the matter of Sean Bullock, 2017-0180 PC. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. All right, moving to letter O. That is 2017-0230 PC in the matter of John Eves. Is Mr. Eves here?
He is not.
Okay. All right.
Again, this is another late fee collections case. Mr. Eves was sent a late fee notice. He has not responded. He has not paid his late fee. In this case, he filed one CCDR late in 2013. It was a December 31st report. And he failed to file a PFDS due by July 1st in 2017. This was when he was a Fulton County Commissioner. Again, asking that you find that there are reasonable grounds to believe that he violated the act when he failed to timely file and failed to pay the late fee.
I don't see in my binder a notice that he got
It was sent USPS. I mean, it was, excuse me, it was
Certified mail.
it was sent UPS actually next day.
Okay, I just don't have the notification that he actually received it.
Has he made an appearance at all?
Not at all.
Completely unresponsive.
Correct, and I've emailed him, called him, no response.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, then, I'll move that there are reasonable grounds to find that in the matter of John Eves, 2017-0230, that a violation of the Campaign Finance Act has occurred. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, moving on then to item P, in the matter of Nikki Paul Starling, 2017-0224 PC. Okay, Ms. Wetzel, that is you. Is Mr. or Mrs. Starling present?
He is not present.
Okay.
Again, this is another late fee collections case. Mr. Starling was sent a notice of late fees. He did respond. His response was simply that he can't afford to pay anything. Unfortunately, we can't go forward with that unless you submit a late fee hardship waiver. He was responsible for filing. 2016 was an election year for him. He was running for the Whitfield County Board of Education, and he failed to file a June 30th, September 30th, October 25th, and December 31st campaign contribution disclosure report. Again, asking that you find that there are reasonable grounds to believe that he violated the act by failing to file these reports and by failing to pay the late fees.
So I see in the binder his letter. It appears that he may qualify for a hardship waiver.
Right, he hasn't filed any of the missing reports though, and he has not filed a late fee hardship waiver or shown that his income is less than, that the late fees are more than 25% of his monthly income.
Has he been asked to do that?
I did not ask him because that's something that he has to do on his own.
Is he aware that that can be done?
I'm not sure. I'll be happy to reach out to him and offer that option.
So even if we find today that a violation has occurred, there's still the 30-day window, right, where they could come up with
Correct.
right.
And in addition, if you want to say today, we could, should he submit such a thing, we could certainly have a payment plan with him if he has a problem paying the full amount.
Yeah, because it's a large amount.
Yeah,
This one's not just
right.
$125. This is,
And if you want to go ahead and waive some late fees now, you have the authority to do that. But,
yeah, hang on, let me turn your mic on really quick so that, okay, there you go.
Yeah, on the issue of whether he received notice of his, opportunity to file for a hardship, it looks like in the binder, there is, under Exhibit 1, it contains the provision about, Georgia law allowing the hardship waivers. So I think he got notice of that.
Okay,
it is in the letter, that's correct.
So the total amount sought is what, 5,500? Or is that something else?
That's something else. So, because his late fees have escalated, if he would enter into negotiations, that amount could lessen. He needs to file the delinquent reports. At minimum, there would be a $125 late fee assessed for each report. So 4 times $125 is $500, right? $500. So that is what the baseline, but because the late fees continue to increase, which is noted in the letter, they continue to increase over time if you do not file the reports, and he never filed the reports.
And also, he knew that there was an option to file an affidavit because he did that in a prior race, and I've looked at his old filings for that. So he was aware that there was an opportunity to do that, but he just chose not to in this race.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Ms. Wetzel? Okay, I'll move then that there are reasonable grounds to find that in the matter of Nikki Paul Starling, 2017-0224 PC, that a violation of the Campaign Finance Act has occurred. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like item 4 is lunch, but we're not quite at lunch yet, so we will keep going.
So I like your face.
Thank you, I do too. Okay, so consent orders. We have a number of items in the preliminary hearings that are moved to consent orders. So let's take those first, okay? And then move down to all the items in number 5.
Get all the consent orders and do it on one motion.
I don't know that we can. Can we hear all the consent orders and do it all in one motion?
I think you
If
can.
they're
You can?
appropriate.
Okay.
If it's appropriate.
Right, and I can tell you that, I mean, okay, I'm sorry. I don't know if I should use my speaker, but let me just say, I'll try it again.
Hang on, yeah.
So, first of all, I can tell you that
Okay.
I do not know whether there's precedent from this commission to do that, but I can tell you for a certainty that the state election board has done that, and it has never been challenged, and frankly, I don't think there would be legal grounds to challenge it. Particularly if there's approval of the consent orders and everybody's in agreement on them, there wouldn't be anybody who could challenge them. But in any regard, I think it's legal, but you could also, if you find one that's a red flag, say, let's hold that one and come back and address that later.
And I'll need to recuse myself from one of them too. I don't know if, Stefan, does a recusal policy apply to consent orders?
Well, I can tell you, since we have a quorum today without you,
Why risk it?
yeah, why risk it? Just go ahead and recuse yourself, Mr. Evans, for that one case.
Okay, so why don't you go ahead and go ahead and let us know which one you're gonna need to recuse so that we can hear
Yeah,
them
it's
all.
Chris Irwin.
All right, so that is the
It's L.
L. Oh, okay, L in item 3. Okay, all right. Okay, so let's take them all in one fell swoop then. I agree with Mr. Cathy. So why don't, with the exception though of L, so why don't we take under item 3, B, C, H, I, and J, all, and then we'll take a vote on those. Then we'll hear L, and Commissioner Evans will need to recuse himself, and then we'll take a vote on that, and then we can do all of them in number 5. Okay, everybody with me?
I'm with you.
All right, let's go.
Commissioners, the first case is in the matter of Avida Armeda Pascal, 2016-0029. Ms. Pascal was a judicial candidate for Superior Court in the Augusta Judicial Circuit during the 2016 general election cycle. This case began pursuant to a third-party complaint filed on April 6, 2016, filed by Mr. John Long. Mr. Long made a number of allegations, but it was mainly related to what he believed was Ms. Pascal's poor record keeping with her campaign finances. Further investigation revealed that Ms. Pascal had 4 filings that were either late or not filed. Her September 30th, October 25th, and December 31st election year campaign contribution disclosure reports were not filed and have not been filed. She has agreed to file those within 30 days from the date of this commission's order. Her personal financial disclosure statement for calendar year 2015, so the one that was filed in 2016 during her election year, was filed, but it was filed late. It was due on March 24th, 2016. She filed it on March 16th, 2016. We also noticed her additional allegations in that she raised $2,400 impermissibly prior to the filing of her declaration of intention to accept campaign contributions. That is a violation of 21.530 subsection G. Ms. Pascal has agreed to the following. She will pay a civil penalty in the amount of $895 for her late filings and non-filings that she made. She will pay a civil penalty in the amount of $450 for the $2,400 that she raised impermissibly. That's about a 22% civil penalty based on what she raised. And she will also pay $375 in late fees, less amount she has already paid. If memory serves me correctly, she's paid $125 already towards her outstanding late fee bill. The total amount comes to $1,750, which she will pay within 90 days from the date the commission executes this order.
Okay, all right. Moving on to item C to 2016-0063 in the matter of Stephen Miller.
Commissioners, this case began on or about October 31st, 2016, pursuant to a third-party complaint by Ms. Debbie Proctor. Mr. Miller was running for the mayorship of Holly Springs, Georgia. He was successful, so he is the incumbent. What Ms. Proctor alleged is that Mr. Miller failed to file his January 31st, 2017 and January 31st, 2018 campaign contribution disclosure reports. Those are non-election year reports, so it's violation of 21534C1. Mr. Miller has acknowledged those violations and has agreed to pay a civil penalty in the amount of $600 for those violations, along with his $250 in late fees. The total amount is $850 due and payable within 30 days. He will also file his 2 outstanding CCDRs within 30 days.
Okay, fantastic. Moving on then to item H, which is 2017-0223, not a PC anymore actually, in the matter of Kamali Varner. Mr. Lane.
Commissioners, Mr. Varner's case began pursuant to a commission complaint, which was filed on February 8th, 2018. Mr. Varner's only charge was that he had failed to timely file his personal financial disclosure statement for calendar year 2016, a violation of 21550A1. Mr. Varner has agreed to pay, or excuse me, Ms. Varner has agreed to pay a $100 civil penalty and a $125 late fee, $225 total, which is due within 30 days from the date of the execution of this order.
Okay, all right. Okay, moving on then to item I, 2017-0239, in the matter of John Charles Turner.
Commissioners, this is also a commission-initiated case. Mr. Turner serves as the school board member for Chattooga County, Georgia, and has served in that capacity since the early 2000s. Mr. Turner did get somewhat confused as to what his filing responsibilities were. When the filing responsibilities were shifted from the state back to the local election superintendents, we noticed that there were 5 violations of the Campaign Finance Act that he was properly noticed of. He failed to timely file his December 31st, 2013 report, CCDR, June 30th, 2014, CCDR, January 31st, 2015, CCDR, June 30th, 2015, CCDR, and his 2015 calendar year personal financial disclosure statement. After speaking with him, he immediately paid $625 in late fees, but he still had a misunderstanding as to what he needed to do, when, and how. That was explained to him, and in that light, his civil penalties were reduced because, just given the circumstances he was under, he was also getting bad information from the local probate court judge who serves as the election superintendent for the county. So, long story short, he's agreed to a $250 civil penalty. He's already paid the $625 worth of filing late fees. So the total amount he'll have due and owing is $250 within 30 days from the date of execution of this order. All of his reports have been filed.
Okay, fantastic. All right, moving on then to item J, which is 2017-0241 in the matter of Jason Winters. Mr. Lane.
Commissioners, this is also a commission-initiated case. It started due to a notice of late fees. Mr. Winters is also from Chattooga County, except he serves on the county commission. He was properly noticed that he had failed to timely file and/or file a number of his reports starting in 2014. Basically, he failed to follow the non-election year schedule. He failed to file his January 31st, 2014 and June 30th, 2014 CCDRs. both of his January 31st and June 30th, 2015 CCRs, and then he failed to timely file his January 31st, March 31st, June 30th, September 30th, and December 31st, 2016 campaign contribution disclosure reports. Those will be the election year reports under 21534C2A. He also failed to timely file his January 31st, 2017 campaign contribution disclosure report, along with his calendar years 2014, 15, and 16 personal financial disclosure statements. We've had a very long discussion about he needs to be on time because it'll help save him a lot of money. And he was appreciative. He has agreed to the payment of a $1,500 civil penalty for the late filed CCDRs. He's agreed to a civil penalty of $450 for his late filed personal financial disclosure statements. In all, his totals, he's also agreed to $1,625 worth of late filing fees, so his late fees. The total amount he's agreed to pay is $3,575 payable within 30 days from the date of this order.
Okay. All right, so now we need to vote on all of those. All right, so how do we do it, Stefan, when we're
Well,
just moved to accept the consent orders?
right.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'll move then that we accept the consent orders that are listed in the agenda under the preliminary hearing section is items B, C, H, I, and J. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, now moving on to item L. Commissioner Evans, you need to recuse, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. This is 2018-0029 in the matter of Chris Irwin. All right.
Commissioners, this case before you is 2018-0029 in the matter of Chris Irwin. It came to us by way of a third-party complaint filed by Mr. Ken Payne on April 12th, 2018. Mr. Irwin is still currently, I believe, a candidate for the District 28 House seat for the Georgia State House. In this complaint, and what the audit confirmed, is that Mr. Irwin exceeded maximum campaign contribution limits by accepting a $5,000 campaign contribution from a company called Carroll Daniel Construction Company. What happened is Mr. Irwin did not realize that he could do an option of choosing separate accounting, which would allow him to take a $5,000 check and then break it out amongst his primary and his general election. He has since reallocated those funds. He didn't spend the entire $5,000 in the primary, so that has been properly reallocated to the maximum limits for both. The $2,600 for the primary, $2,400 for the runoff, or not the runoff, the general, excuse me. He has agreed to the payment of a $500 civil penalty, and he has, like I said, he's already reallocated the funds and he hasn't improperly spent them, so he's good to go from there. The $500 civil penalty is paid within 30 days from the date of this order.
Okay, then. I will make a motion that we accept the consent order in the matter of Chris Irwin, 2018-0029. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Jamie?
I said aye.
Oh, sorry. Okay, all right then. Moving to item number 5, which is all the consent orders. Let's just take these into order that they are listed on the agenda unless anything has changed. My agenda does not have, my agenda goes all the way through letter M. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's start with A. 2016-0011 in the matter of William Bill Johnson. Mr. Lane.
Commissioners, this case came to the commission pursuant to a third-party complaint filed by Mr. Griffin Watson. Mr. Watson had a number of allegations. The majority of them were not valid. However, additional investigation allowed us to determine and properly notice Mr. Johnson that he had failed to file his personal financial disclosure statement for calendar year 2011 and failed to file his December 31st, 2013 campaign contribution disclosure report his 15-day before special election contribution disclosure report, which would have been due on March 19th of 2013, and failed to file his December 31st, 2013 campaign contribution disclosure report. Mr. Johnson has agreed to pay a $400 civil penalty for violations of 21-534C1, C4, and 21-550A1. He's agreed to pay $375 in late fees. A total of $775 is due within 30 days from the date of this order, and he has to file all of his outstanding reports within 30 days of the order.
Okay, moving on then to item B, 2016-0045, in the matter of, is it Akhtar Sadiq? That's Mr. Lane.
I'm sorry, Commissioners, if I could just for a moment go back to Mr. William Bill Johnson. If I recall correctly, Mr. Fuller can correct me if I'm wrong, that was a case in which you had already found probable cause. It was referred to the Attorney General's office, and he has subsequently negotiated a consent order, which we just went over. Is that right?
Yes, that's right, Mr. Lane, and I just wanted to mention to the commissioners, and I think that its language is included in the order, that Mr. Johnson had agreed to a payment plan of sorts. I think we had discussed, I think that's in there.
It's in there.
Okay, that he was having some bankruptcy issues with some other matters, and that he was comfortable with that fine if he were to be allowed to do a payment plan, which I think is reflected in the order.
And I have to apologize to the Commission. I believe I got the draft right before the payment plan went. Oops, sorry. But there is a payment plan.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Equal monthly installments of $75, which shall commence on June 1st. Okay.
Okay.
Item B, 2016-0045, in the matter of Akhtar Sadiq.
Mr. Sadiq's case came to the Commission by way of third-party complaint filed by Mr. Ronald Schneider on July 25th, 2016. Mr. Sadiq is one of the perennial candidates for this state Senate seat for District 56. He's run continually since 2010, and this case is relating to his 2016 campaign for that office. What was noticed in the complaint and what was verified is that Mr. Sadiq failed to file his March 31st, June 30th, and December 31st, 2016 campaign contribution disclosure reports. That's the election year schedule, under 21-534C2A. Mr. Sadiq claims to be unaware that he had to continue filing his reports after he lost the primary, but given his numerous runs for office, it wasn't overtly convincing. He's agreed to pay a late fee in the amount of $375. I believe, if memory serves me correctly, he's already paid it, but we have listed in the order he'll pay it within the next 30 days. He has also subsequently filed all of his reports. They were 0 reports because he'd already disposed of his cash with the primary. He was actually running, not in the negative, but his reports have explained basically he was in a negative balance on his last report that he did file. In light of the fact he had nothing to disclose, we recommend that the Commission exercise its discretion pursuant to 21-5-6-14CI and not impose a civil penalty for those 0 reports.
Okay, any questions? Okay, moving on then to 2017-0225, PC in the matter of Gary Bechtel.
Commissioners, this is a case initiated by the Commission. It is one of our late fee collection matters. Mr. Bechtel was notified of his various outstanding late fees. Unfortunately, he was non-responsive during that administrative period, so he commenced a suit to collect those late fees. What we found is that he failed to file his campaign contribution disclosure reports starting in March 31st, so March 31st, June 30th, September 30th, October 25th, and December 31st, 2016, for his election year bid for the Board of Commission District 1 in Bigby County. We also found that he failed to file his CCDR for June 30th, 2017, so he was successful. He had a non-election year duty following that. And he also failed to timely file his personal financial disclosure statements for calendar years 2014 and 2015. Mr. Bechtel has agreed with findings and conclusions of law. He's agreed to pay a $2,100 civil penalty for the Failure to file his CCDR, a $100 civil penalty for the failure to file his personal financial disclosure statements, and $1,125 in late fees. The total of $3,325 is due and payable within 30 days from the date of the order. And he also has to file his outstanding reports within 30 days.
Okay, any questions? All right, moving on then to item D, 2017-0235 PC in the matter of Doug Ireland.
Commissioners, this is also one of our late fee enforcement actions. So the complaint was initiated by the commission on or about February 20th, 2019. What the commission found pursuant to its audit and what was noticed to Mr. Ireland was that he had failed to file his June 30th, 2013, July 1st, 2013, and July 1st, 2017 first month campaign contribution disclosure report. The last two were the personal financial disclosure statements related to his campaign to retain the city council seat he has for the city of Suwanee, Georgia. Mr. Ireland has agreed with the conclusions of law and findings of fact and has agreed to pay a $200 civil penalty for his late filings, a $375 late fee. The total of $575 is due within 30 days from the date of his order, and if I recall correctly, all of his reports have been filed, so he has nothing left due and owing to us.
Okay, fantastic. Any questions? All right. Item E, in the matter of Brittany D. Pittman, 2017-0243 PC.
This is another commission-initiated case, which started on February 20th, 2018. Ms. Pittman serves as the Salt County Commissioner of Murray County, Georgia. She is currently in office, most recently being elected in 2016. We noticed Ms. Pittman of 5 reports that she basically failed to file, that being September 30th, 2016, October 25th, 2016, December 31st, 2016, so that's her election year, a violation of 21534C2A. And she also failed to file her personal financial disclosure statement for calendar year 2011 and 2012, violations of 21550A1. Ms. Pittman has agreed to pay a civil penalty in the amount of $200 for the CCDR violations, or $100 civil penalty for violation of the PFDS violations, and $625 in filing late fees. The $925 is due within 30 days, and she has filed all of her outstanding reports, so she doesn't have any of those to us.
Okay, fantastic. All right, item F. Are any questions before we move on to item F? All right. 2017-0183 PC in the matter of Shanna Eugene Jones.
Mr. Jones' case is also a late fee enforcement action. It was commenced by the Commission on November 9th, 2017. Mr. Jones, if I recall correctly, went to the Attorney General's office after a finding of probable cause. Mr. Fuller was able to successfully resolve that. The respondent has agreed to the payment of a civil penalty in the amount of $150, filing late fees of $125. The total amount is $275 due within 30 days, and the violation was that the respondent failed to timely file his March 6, 2014 campaign contribution disclosure report. That's the 15 days before a special election report that is due, since the city of South Fulton was doing its first election after being created, and that's a violation of 21534C3.
Okay, any questions? All right, moving on then to item G, 2016-0047 PC in the matter of Marvin Arrington Jr.
Commissioners, this is a case that began pursuant to a third-party complaint filed by, on July 26, 2016. The complaint that was originally filed against Mr. Arrington, who serves as the District 5 Commissioner for Fulton County, was that he had used the Wolf Creek Amphitheater complex to subsidize his campaign contribution and campaign functions. There was no evidence of that. He had other issues related to that, but that was between him and Fulton County and their auditors. What we did notice is that Mr. Arrington had a lot of reports that were either not filed or late filed. He had a September 30th, 2014 CCDR that was not filed, an October 25th, 2014 CCDR that was late filed, a January 31st, 2017 CCDR that was late filed, and a June 30th, 2015, a January 31st, 2016, and June 30th, 2016 CCDR that were just not filed. He also had 3 personal financial disclosure statements for calendar year 13, 14, and 15, all not filed. So that's a violation of 21.550A1. The commission did do an audit of his campaign bank records because he did have sizable campaign cash that was moving through his accounts. We did not notice anything that showed that any of the campaign expenses were being used for anything other than ordinary and necessary expenses. We've had a very long discussion with his attorney, Mr. Lawrence Zimmerman, about how he needs to improve his bookkeeping. We've actually suggested, considering the amount of money he's raising, he should outsource it to a CPA, which I believe he has done. So his next report should be spot on. Mr. Arrington has agreed to the payment of a $3,500 civil penalty. And he's agreed to a $1,125 late fee amount, less the amounts he's already paid. He has made, I believe, 2 payments of like $275 towards his outstanding late fee balance. The total amount of late fees and civil penalties comes up to $4,000, which Mr. Arrington will pay in 23 equal monthly installments of $166.66. And if I recall correctly, he's already begun his payment plan.
What was his balance? What was his floating balance?
In the campaign?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I think he had cash on hand. It was approaching $20,000. I think it was just shy. But he moves a lot more than that in and out. He does have fairly sizable expenses and donations.
Okay, all right, moving on then, if there aren't any other questions, to item H, which is 2018-0023 PC in the matter of Kathy Buchanan.
Commissioners, this is another one of our late fee enforcement actions that was commenced by the commission on May 7th, 2018, so it was on the rocket docket. Ms. Buchanan serves as the county coroner for Heard County, Georgia. Ms. Buchanan failed to timely file her December 31st, 2016, January 31st, 2017, and June 30th, 2017 campaign contribution disclosure reports. She's agreed with the findings of facts and conclusions of law, but this is a case in which she really did get bad advice from the new election superintendent, who I think had been in the job for all of about a month when she began not filing her reports. He gave her, I'll just leave it, he gave her bad advice on what her filing duties were. And he was very apologetic for it. He was the first to call and say, I think I may have made a mistake. In that light, we're recommending that the commission not impose a civil penalty pursuant to its authority under 215614C1. But we are asking that the $125 late fee be imposed. She has paid it. She's filed all of her outstanding reports. And that's the end of it. So.
Okay, all right, any questions? Okay, moving on then to item I, 2015-0056 PC in the matter of James Marcus Cantrell.
Mr. Cantrell's case was a commission-initiated case that came about pursuant to a random audit of the Muskogee County Board of Education. And that's where Mr. Cantrell currently serves. He's a member of the Muskogee County Board of Education. In fact, he was just recently re-elected this year. Mr. Cantrell's violations were that he failed to file a campaign contribution disclosure report for June 30th, 2011, December 31st, 2011, and June 30th, 2012. All of those are his non-election year reports. He has agreed to the payment of a civil penalty in the amount of $600 for his CCR disclosures that were untimely filed. He also failed to file his personal financial disclosure statements for calendar years 2009, 2010, and 2011. He's agreed to a $600 civil penalty payment for those violations as well. He does have $125 in outstanding late fees, which he's agreed to pay. The total of $1,325 is due and payable within 30 days, and if memory serves me correctly, he has already paid that. And the only thing he'll have outstanding is that he owes us, I believe, 2 reports that need to be filed within 30 days. But he's working on getting those records.
Okay, any questions? All right, moving on then to item number J, 2018-0042 in the matter of Lisa Lott. Ms. Wetzel.
Commissioners, this was initiated upon a third-party complaint that we received in 2018. Ms. Lott was a candidate, a successful candidate for Superior Court Judge of the Western Circuit. The allegation was that she failed to timely file a personal financial disclosure statement in violation of OCGA 21-5-50. That allegation was substantiated. She did not. Upon receiving the complaint, she immediately filed the personal financial disclosure statement and paid the late fee. Her husband actually is her campaign manager, and he was extremely apologetic, and he mentioned that he actually tried to file the personal financial disclosure statement last year, but because it was a whole year early, he couldn't. It simply, I believe, was an oversight, and in light of that, $100 civil penalty is recommended, and they have already paid. And I ask that you would approve the consent order agreed to by the party.
Okay.
Respondent other.
All right, any questions? All right, moving on then to item K, 2017-0178 PC in the matter of William Irvin, is it Brezel?
Sure.
Okay.
This is a commission-initiated complaint upon a collections case. He received notice of the late fees. He failed to pay those, pay the late fee, and then it was forwarded to the Enforcement Division for a collections case. He was a candidate for the South Fulton City Council in this special election held in 2017. And he failed to file his special election CCDR that was due 15 days before the special election. He has paid the late fee of $125. He's been extremely cooperative. He just didn't pay the late fee when he got the notice. Therefore, to be on par with some other cases that have been resolved out of South Fulton, no civil penalty is actually recommended.
Okay. Any other questions, or any questions? All right, moving on then to 2017-0186 in the matter of Robert Troy Brumbelow.
This is, Commissioners, this was a third-party complaint. Mr. Brumbelow was a candidate for the mayor of City of Cumming. He is actually now currently the mayor of Cumming. He started his campaign really early on and filed a DOI in 2015. At the end of 2015, therefore, he started having filing responsibilities that started in 2016. And he failed to file 5 CCDRs, the January 31st 2016 non-election year report, the June 30th 2016 non-election year report, the January 31st 2017 election year report, the March 31st 2017 election year report, and the June 30th 2017 election year report. Upon receipt of this complaint, he immediately filed the reports and began complying with the act. He's paid a late fee of $625, and he has agreed to pay a civil penalty of $400, and he's already tendered that amount to the commission. And these are all violations of OCGA 21-5-34.
Okay. All right. Moving on then to item M, 2017-0204 in the matter of Madeline M. Archibong.
Commissioners, this is another third-party complaint. This was filed against Ms. Archibong, who is a current Atlanta City Council member, and she was reelected in 2017. The allegations in the complaint were that she accepted 2 contributions that exceeded maximum contribution limits. Those allegations were substantiated. Upon receiving the complaint, she immediately returned the money. The contributions that she received were totaled $5,000 from each individual, and they occurred within a year of each other, so they're kind of spread apart. So if you don't have really good tracking systems, it's really easy to lose sight of what you've received and what you haven't, and also because the City of Atlanta elections are a nonpartisan race and they're decided in a general election. There's no primary. You can only accept one contribution basically. But she immediately returned that money, and she's put in place new measures to ensure that this won't happen again. She has agreed to pay a $480 civil penalty, which is 10% of the amount that she accepted over the maximum contribution limit from the 2 donors.
Okay, any questions? Okay. So I move then that we accept the consent orders listed in number 5 of the agenda, A through M. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, moving on then to item 6, the report of the executive secretary.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, but we have a late arrival, Ms. Collins, which is a PC case. It is your item K, 2018-0019 PC. She is here. I know that y'all already voted on PC, but she is wondering if the commission will entertain the acceptance of the consent order.
I guess we would need to look at it, and, I mean, it's part, it would be part, yes, because it is the short answer, because you have the 30 days to negotiate, but I think we would need to move it to the next agenda.
Sounds good, and I apologize for the delay. I actually went to the wrong location. When a family member signed for this, and I was actually out of the country, traveling for work, so I wanted to take advantage of the hearing, so I couldn't enter that consent order. So I have a report, what the commission wants to move
We
forward.
don't have to bring her back another time.
I can summarize it for you. It's fairly.
You can?
I
Okay.
got it. Hold up.
Okay, I just want to, well, I mean, the biggest, is this one where it's a commission-initiated response? Because if it's not, then we need to give the party,
It's commission initiated.
okay, all right, because I just want to make sure that we gave the other party notice. Okay, all right, then, okay, then it's moved then, just so that the record is clear. I'm going to make a motion that we withdraw our finding of reasonable grounds existing for a violation of the Campaign Finance Act in 2018-0019 PC. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Mr. Lane, now, this will move to a consent order. So we will hear your consent order in 2018-0019 PC in the matter of Esha Collins.
Commissioners, in this case, the commission has presented a proposed consent order, Ms. Collins, to resolve a case that was started by the commission pursuant to a lengthy enforcement action which commenced on May 7th, 2018. Ms. Collins serves as, I believe, the vice chair, and I know she's the District 6 Atlanta Board of Education member. She only had one violation, which was the failure to timely file her September 30th, 2017 campaign contribution disclosure report. My understanding is Ms. Collins is agreeing to the findings of facts and conclusions of law that would constitute a violation of 21534C2A. She has agreed to payment of a $100 civil penalty, $125 final late fee. The $225 should be paid within 30 days from the date of this order.
Okay, all right, then, let me amend my motion. Well, yeah, it's separate, right? Because we all just voted on item 5. Okay, so then, all right, I move that we accept the consent order in 2018-0019 PC in the matter of Esha Collins. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, all right. Thank you, Ms. Collins.
Thank you.
All right, moving on now to item number 6, report of the executive secretary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, as always, I'm going to move rapidly, entertain questions if you have any. Delighted to speak to you. Let me begin with administrative dismissals. Very, very brief summary of the law. It's always helpful to recall this. There are certain cases that are opened by our office because they meet the initial jurisdictional requirements. However, when we find that there is in fact no factual colorable basis for such complaints, not a factual dispute, there is nothing that we could proceed on, the commission could rule on, then the commission granted us the authority, the executive secretary authority to dismiss those cases. These cases, therefore, that I'm about to recite to you have already been dismissed. However, in the interest of transparency, I'll disclose them to you. And always, these are dismissals without prejudice. If they need to be reopened, they could be. So there are 4 cases that I have administratively dismissed since the last meeting. The first 2 are cases that should not have been opened by our office, in my view. One was a case that proceeded from the effort to collect late fees when they were non-responsive. However, there were no late fees as we investigated this case because it was not an election year for the specific respondent to the case. It was not a valid case. The second one involves Sheriff Schrader, who did not file 2 CCDRs, but one involved a late CCDR that he paid a fee for, and the other was one where he apparently had a difficulty with the information that was on our website. And so the appropriate thing to do is waive the fee, or to dismiss the case, which we did. So there's nothing left for him. The other 2 cases are a little bit more substantive, but again, nothing that we can proceed on. The first involved Robert Trammell Jr., 2018-0002. There's a complaint filed by the Log Cabin Republicans. And in this case, it involved contribution from the Democratic Party. However, it did not exceed campaign contribution limits on its face because the contribution was to multiple candidates. And so it fit with its plain face without factual dispute with an exception, so it's not a valid case. The other involves case number 2016-0013, the matter of Augustus Skeen. And Mr. Skeen is an attorney who provided legal services. There is an explicit exception in the Act for volunteer services. He did not charge for those services, so it's not a valid case, so it's administratively dismissed. Again, at any time, if there are concerns about those that are written down, you can, we could reopen them, but I think they're all valid dismissals. Let me then move on to final decisions. The background on final decisions is this. When we have cases that proceed to the Office of State Administrative Hearings, an initial decision is issued by the hearing officer. The final decision comes from this commission. However, if the commission does not receive a request to modify the initial decision in its final decision, then the initial decision becomes final by operation of law. There's a 30-day window for that to happen. In both of these cases, the first involving Irby Allen Meters and the second involving Christopher G. Nicholson, the 30-day window has passed. The initial decisions are acceptable and appropriate in our view, and there was no challenge from the other side to the initial decisions. Both of them found violations of the law and imposed penalties. So those initial decisions have become final decisions by operation of law, and providing notice of that. I can tell you that the next step, should they not honor those decisions, that is the respondents, is that they go to the Attorney General's office, who already actually has the cases, but they then go over to collections. And enforcement of those final decisions. They're just like a Superior Court order, except they could challenge them to the Superior Court. And I will tell you that I think, at least in one of those cases, the time to challenge has actually lapsed. All right, thank you for that. Let me then move on to a discussion briefly of where we are on both our case counts and on the waivers that we have handled. We've received so far this year 46 waiver requests. Of those, 32 have been addressed. We still have 14 that are open. Some of those waiver requests, being lobbyist waivers, are very substantial. The total amount of waivers that have been granted this year are about $94,500 approximately, which is substantial, but that's an appropriate amount given a variety of reasons, all with a valid legal excuse to allow a waiver. But if they have one, we're certainly going to consider that. As far as cases go, we've opened 60 cases this year. Most of those are on complaints that we've received. And as you know, as I previously reported, and I'll say it again just because I like to give credit where it's due, Robert, Bethany, and the rest of the staff have done an excellent job. The backlog has been resolved some time ago, and that backlog was cases that they inherited from the prior generation. That was hundreds of cases.
You say completely abated? I mean,
It has been gone, and it is gone. I suppose someone could nitpick with that and say, well, there are cases for the Attorney General's office, but that's, of course, legal cases take some time to proceed through the process. But we have, that backlog has been resolved. We still, of course, cases pending because we've had 60 cases filed this year, of which many have been resolved, but not all. I will say this, just so that you're ready. This is an election year. It's a big election year because this is the election year that we have Secretary of State, we have the Governor's Office, we have the Superintendent of Education, we have the Attorney General. We have a lot of big elections this year. And because of that, and because we just finished the City of Atlanta race as well for the mayor, there will be a substantial number of cases in the 2019 calendar year. It takes a while for those to proceed, and it has been our practice, we've just begun this, but it's been our practice that in the very substantial races, Governor, for example, City of Atlanta mayor's race, we're going to look at every single candidate's filings. We're not going to wait for a complaint. It's nonpartisan. We just look across the board and see what we got. And we are finding violations and problems. So we will address all of those in turn, but I can tell you that I think next year will be, and maybe the end of this year, but next year will certainly be a big year for us in terms of cases. And I have the slightest doubt that we'll move through those pretty quickly. I will also tell you that it is my intent to meet with the candidates for governor, or more importantly, their campaign chairs, after the runoff election is completed. And the reason is, I'd rather us be proactive on the front end with them and tell them what we think are the red flags and let them address those. And indeed, if there really are issues where we think it's one thing and they think it's something else, really seriously, they can ask for an opinion on that and we can appropriately address it. Our hope is to get people to file correctly in our view rather than to be dinging them on the back end. We're not looking to have a media swarm with people filing complaints, but rather to get things right up front. So we hope to do that. There have been some complaints that have been filed already, that's normal, but you know, we're proceeding through those. In fact, a waiver was granted yesterday on one small matter involving late fees involving the Casey Cable campaign, but there are other issues that still remain. Okay, in terms of our space, you know, we have essentially finished building it out. We are still got some little decorating things to do. This is the end of the fiscal year coming up next week. So we'll be doing what we can appropriately to finish what we can financially within the fiscal year. We will be carrying a surplus and returning some money to the state. There's a question about how much. We have a different set of folks up at our attached agency, which is SAO, State Accounting Office. And they have a different view as to what we can do to encumber our 2018 funds to pay for some 2019 contracts versus our predecessors. So we're still in discussions about that. You know, I'm delighted to give money back to the state and therefore to the taxpayers. That's great. It's not really going to affect anybody's taxes, but I'm still delighted to do that. The reality is that we have not been able to find an appropriate additional tech person. And because of that, and that's because the amount that we can pay versus the amount that we have in the budget just don't square, or the amount we have in the budget versus the amount that a qualified person wants, we can't pay what they're asking for. We're looking for a starter position and they want $70,000 and we're not doing that. So we'll be using some temp help to resolve some of those issues. But that also means that we end up having money that we didn't spend on that position. So we have some of that floating over as well. We do, however, in my view, and I've asked OPB to look at this, and we've been working on this for years trying to get it moved forward, is really want to redo the coding for our internal computer systems. It's not to make it easy for us, but it's to make it really functional. People should not have any problem filing today, but I can tell you our ability to run reports to do what I think is any sort of sophisticated analysis on what we receive, and that's to people's benefit who file appropriately, so they're not flagged when they shouldn't be, as well as catching those who don't properly file, is very inadequate. It's more than a decade out of date. It really wasn't good when it was written. So we're seeking money to do that. Frankly, we're also seeking for them to balance our rent since our rent cost went up. But overall, financially, I think we're certainly not an agency that is going to exceed its budget because we are very responsible in the way that we look at things. And I will give Mr. Yap credit for that. You know, it's always an issue of doing the right things with the money, and we're working with OPB to get them to account for our money in the appropriate way so that they're showing the positions correctly. Still an issue. So as far as the employees go, I can tell you there has been a lot of turnover again in SAO, our attached agency, including the loss of their human resources director for a number of months. So they had no human resources person, which we rely on for that. We do have some employee issues that we're going to address, but most of them have been addressed appropriately. We certainly document carefully any employee problems that we have. I can tell you that I always want people to be able to resolve their problems rather than be terminated, and I'm hoping that will happen. We'll let you know as those things resolve, and we're moving appropriately on that. But I will tell you, as an overall matter, I think that you have very good staff, and I will tell you that they are dedicated. We've had some really good work done by some people this year. The governor did not appropriate for, or I should say the governor, the General Assembly did not appropriate for raises for any state employee this year. Some folks were not in our agency, but were appropriated out of extra money in other agencies, but we're not doing that. We're following the appropriation recommendation, so that's where we are on that. And that may change next year, we'll see what happens. But overall, the space and financially and the employee situation, I think is very good, and I think we're making positive steps. Any questions?
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you very much,
you.
Josh.
Thank you. Good work. All right. Christian,
Am I still on here?
you're still on.
All right. Just a few updates, Madam Chair and Commissioners, on a few cases that I have in my office. First, I want to maybe touch on some of the issues that we're running into. I guess I should say I'm running into, since it's just me doing it, of trying to track people down and get notice. I don't know if this is something that maybe on the front end might be considered down the line, but ways that, especially for more rural candidates who do local filing, maybe some way of ensuring that the information that they, and this is kind of a tough way tough problem to solve, I know, but on the front end, the information that they include on whatever campaign contribution disclosure report or declaration of intent to receive contributions, whatever contact information that they list is information that will be valid for a period of time if in fact they need to be reached. We're running into issues where information that is on the report is not current, and we're having to go through other channels to locate individuals. But what I want to try and avoid at all costs, if I can, before filing statement of matters asserted, initiating hearings in OSA, is to make sure that people are aware of them. So we're trying to make efforts to cure that issue. But I just wanted to put that out there as something that maybe it could be legislated or maybe made by rule, that information on the CCDR has to be valid for a period of time. But that being said, there are a few cases that I want to just bring to the Commission's attention. These first two, I have filed statement of matters asserted with OSA, Keaton Wainwright, it's 2017-0177 PC, Conda Lowry Goodson, 2016-0030 PC. Those will be pursuing forward and hopefully, if not resolved, by the time we have our next commission meeting. Likely by the end of this week, there will be a third statement of matters asserted filed in the matter of Craig Michael Vaught, that's 2011-0019. Then I have a few cases that I'm hopeful that will result in consent agreements. That is Daniel Chastain, 2011-0049, Normarine Merritt, 2012-0013, and then Mike Boudreau, 2014-0069. So those are ones that I'm actively working on, trying to get resolved to make room for new things that come in. And as far as old news, still awaiting ruling in the Oxidine matter with the federal case. We had that hearing. There was a hearing on a temporary restraining order that was back in the beginning of May that we had. I don't see counsel in that case present here today, but we're waiting on the judge to rule. Well, I know Mr. Chalmers is here, but he's not involved on the federal case. So, but we're just waiting on ruling for both the motion to dismiss that I've previously discussed with you guys, as well as a ruling on a temporary restraining order. I anticipate that there will be favorable decisions, but we'll have to wait and see. But otherwise, just moving along as usual. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Fuller? Okay, anything to add to that, Mr. Ritter?
Oh, no,
Okay.
no, thank you.
All right, okay, now, do we have anybody in the public who has signed in who wishes to speak? All right. Okay, hearing none then, do I have a motion to adjourn the June 21st, 2018 regularly scheduled commission meeting? All right, so moved by Commissioner Kathy. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah.